They thought they could humiliate my mother's memory in front of everyone and still walk down the aisle. Instead, I stood up and walked away. From the wedding, the lies, and the family that never truly saw me. My name is Michael. I'm 33, and until a few weeks ago, I was engaged to Lydia, a woman I believed I'd spend the rest of my life with. We met 6 years ago at a friend's cookout. She was sharp, funny, and had a laugh that drew people in. We hit it off instantly. Fast forward 5 years, I proposed, and she said yes. I thought I had everything. Lydia came from a well-off family. Her parents, Jack and Donna, owned a chain of restaurants. They were loud, commanding, and obsessed with appearances. Over time, their casual arrogance became less charming and more grating. Still, I tried to make peace with it. I loved their daughter. I figured they'd warm up eventually. Then there's my mother, Patricia. She passed away 2 years ago after a brutal fight with cancer. She was my anchor, the kindest soul I've ever known. She didn't just raise me, she taught me what it meant to be compassionate, selfless, and dignified. And she was the reason Lydia's family still had their empire. When Jack and Donna's business hit rock bottom years ago, my mom stepped in. She co-signed a loan when no one else would. She paid for an industrial oven when theirs broke down. She gave them financial and emotional support and never once asked for anything in return. That's just who she was. But you wouldn't know it by how they spoke about her now. At first, it was subtle. Lydia would call my mom a little too helpful, or say she inserted herself where she wasn't needed. I dismissed it as awkwardness. But then came the wedding planning, and the microaggressions turned into full-blown mockery. I wanted to include a small tribute to my mom at the ceremony. Lydia brushed it off. "Weddings should be happy," she said. "Isn't that going to make people sad?" Then came the rehearsal dinner. Jack and Donna insisted on hosting it at an upscale venue. They treated it like a red carpet event, more about showing off than celebrating love. The guest list was 80% their people. My dad, my sister, and 3 friends from childhood sat at the edge of the room like afterthoughts. That night, everything spiraled. Jack stood up to give a toast. It started as praise for Lydia, then turned into passive-aggressive jabs about how she was marrying someone grounded. He smirked as people chuckled. Donna followed with her speech, gushing about Lydia's patience in dealing with me and how I'd learned so much since being with her. She said it like I was some pet project. Then came the part I'll never forget. Jack raised his glass to someone who's no longer with us, my mother. For a moment, I braced myself for kindness. Instead, he laughed. "She always had strong opinions, didn't she?" he said. "Loved to insert herself into things. Generous woman. Maybe too generous sometimes. Let's hope Michael doesn't inherit her enthusiasm for taking charge." The room laughed. Donna added, "She meant well, but some people don't know when to step back." I froze. I couldn't breathe. My mother, the woman who saved their business, who helped their son through school, who babysat their grandchildren, was being reduced to a punchline. And Lydia? She laughed along. I stood up. My chair scraped across the floor. Everyone fell silent. "You think this is funny?" I asked. "You mock the woman who made this entire dinner, your entire lifestyle, possible, and you think it's a joke?" Jack tried to play it off. "Relax, Michael. We're just reminiscing." Donna chimed in. "It's all in good fun." I stared at Lydia. "You just sat there," I said. "You laughed with them. You didn't say a word." She whispered, "Michael, please stop." "No," I said. "Not this time." I turned to the room. "This wedding is off." Gasps echoed through the venue. Jack stood up, furious. "You're making a big mistake." "No," I said, walking toward the door. "The mistake would be marrying into this family." And I walked out, leaving them speechless. The silence in the restaurant was so thick, it felt like fog pressing against everyone's skin. People didn't just stop eating. They stopped breathing. Every fork froze mid-air. Every sip of wine left undrunk. And me? I stood there, suddenly more calm than I had felt in weeks. For the first time, the weight on my chest lifted. My heart pounded, but I was steady. Lydia's mouth opened slightly, but she didn't speak. Her parents just stared, stunned that someone they thought they had under control had just pulled the rug out from under their perfect little fantasy. I want to make something very clear, I said, scanning the room. This is not an impulsive decision. This is not about nerves. This is about dignity, about respect. I looked directly at Jack and Donna. You mocked my mother. You humiliated me. You used this dinner to put yourselves on a pedestal and kick dirt on the memory of a woman who did more for you than you ever deserved. This woman paid your bills, saved your restaurant, helped your son graduate. And this is how you repay her? Donna's face twisted into an indignant frown. We didn't mean it like that. It doesn't matter, I said sharply. What matters is that you said it. In front of people who knew her, who loved her. People who could see exactly what kind of family I was about to marry into. My voice didn't waver. I wasn't yelling. I didn't have to. I had truth, and it cut deep enough. I don't want an apology, I continued. It wouldn't be worth anything. I don't want a conversation. And I definitely don't want to marry into a family that thinks cruelty disguised as humor is a charming personality trait. Lydia stepped forward then, trembling. Michael, please, we can fix this. I looked at her and saw not the woman I had fallen in love with, but the woman who sat silent while her parents spat on my mother's grave. No, Lydia. You had your chance, last night. When they made those comments, all you had to do was say something. Anything. But you laughed. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know what to do. You do now, I said. You live with it. I turned to my dad and sister, gave them a nod. They stood and followed. A few others from my side, friends, co-workers, got up too. Not all, but enough to know I wasn't alone. When I walked out of that restaurant, I wasn't walking away from a wedding. I was walking away from a mistake I almost made permanent. The next morning, my phone lit up like a slot machine. Missed calls, voicemails, texts ranging from apologetic to manipulative. Lydia. We can still make this work. I didn't mean to laugh. I was nervous. They went off script. Jack. You humiliated us. You'll regret it. Donna. I didn't raise Lydia to be treated this way. Funny. I didn't think they raised her at all. Not into someone I'd want to marry anyway. I ignored every message. Turned off my phone, went for a walk, got coffee, sat by the lake for a while. But I wasn't done yet. 3 days later, Lydia knocked on my door. Her face was pale, makeup smudged like she hadn't slept. I brought back the ring, she said, holding out the velvet box. And something else, I raised an eyebrow. She stepped inside without waiting for an invite. The locket, she said, pulling it from her purse. I know I shouldn't have taken it. I thought it would help me feel close to you again. I missed you. I stared at her. At the locket. My mom's locket. The one that had been in my family for generations. The one my mom said I'd know when to give away. You had no right to take that, I said. You already took enough from me. She flinched. I'm sorry, You took something that wasn't yours, I said, voice calm, cold. Not just the locket. My trust. My memory of my mother. You stood there and let them destroy it, and then you laughed. And now you want to play Let's Rewind like this is a bad episode of a rom-com. She started to cry. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said. And you never stopped them. That tells me everything I need to know. I took the locket from her hand. Goodbye, Lydia. She opened her mouth, then closed it. A second later, she turned and walked out the door. And this time, I didn't look back. The next few weeks were filled with texts, voicemails, even her family reaching out, trying to spin the story. But I didn't answer. One day, a friend from the rehearsal dinner called. Just wanted to say, you were right. That took guts, and it needed to be said. Another message came a week later. A woman who worked under Donna sent an anonymous note. She's telling everyone you had anger issues. Just thought you should know. Some of us saw what really happened. I smiled, because now I knew. I didn't lose anything that night. I regained my voice. I didn't just call off a wedding. I cut ties with a legacy of entitlement and silence. And I finally stood up for my mother, the woman who never asked for anything but deserved everything.